So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Girl, winter is so last season. And now spring's got you looking at pictures of tank tops with hungry eyes. Your algorithm is feeding you cutoffs. You're thirsty for the sun on your shoulders. That perfect hang on the patio sundress. Those sandals you can wear all day and all night. And you've had enough of shopping from your couch. Done hoping it looks anything like the picture when you tear open that envelope? It's time for a little in-person spring treat. It's time for a trip to Ross. Work your magic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, wearer of many hats. And with me, as always, is my co-host, my good friend and colleague, Mr. Jake Noonan. We could refer to him today as the Ernie to my Bert. Jake, say hi.
Hey everybody, great to be here as always. The Ernie and Bert. I do have to say, they were a little bit more than best friends. I'm just putting that out there, Dr. Matt.
Did we just reveal something? Come on, Bert. Oh no, Bert. Well.
Always love those two.
I do not want to know who I am for today. Just we'll leave it there.
Well, you're Jacqui Byrne. I mean, that's, you're your own entity here. Now, of course, now I'm going to get stuck on thinking about which Sesame Street character you are.
I know.
To short circuit my brain from doing that, let's introduce our awesome guest, Jacqui. Jacqui, please tell everybody who you are and what it is you do.
So my name's Jacqui Byrne, and I founded FlexSchool 10 years ago, which is an amazing feat to have reached double digits. And I started it because 2 of my 4 kids were essentially on their way to failing parts of 6th grade. And I didn't know what to do. I have 4 kids and I'm a single parent. There was no way I could homeschool. And so at first I wasn't really worried. You don't want to overstep and become a snowplow parent, right? So I thought, well, 6th grade's a good time to learn how to play school. And if there are some failures along the way, this is a good year for it. And maybe that would have worked with other children. It did not with mine. And the teachers were really trying, by the way. Like, this was not a situation where the teachers were sort of giving up on the kids or didn't know what to do. They were fantastic. So as the year went on, they got more anxious, more depressed. And at the end, probably in April, at some point, I saw one of my kids at the end of the driveway heaving on armor to walk to school. And I realized that what was an awkward fit was never going to fit. And I was running the educational portion of, or the academic portion of an educational company I had co-founded. I was working with kids like mine, and I knew the local schools, and I knew there wasn't a great place for them. And I was just desperate, as many parents are, for a while. And then I thought, we're going to start a school. And then the next thought that followed that, how hard can it be, was one of the most naive things I have ever thought in my entire life.
That's adorable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So adorable. It was adorable then. After that, less adorable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, goodness. Oh, boy.
I think the most important thing that we did is that as an outsider, I could reimagine things that an insider might not have thought of. And I could take the kids and design a school around them instead of taking a traditional model and trying to tweak it and curve the edges enough to make it a good fit for kids who don't necessarily fit. So I think that was a really important part of the beginning.
Oh, and Jacqui, we've known each other for years. I mean, I've been a proud supporter of Flex School, and I can't even tell you how many kids I've sent to you over the years. And literally, I can't tell you because of HIPAA. But I think in all the time that we've known each other, I don't know if I've ever heard the personal nature of your story. I mean, like I understood it in the abstract, right? You were like, I knew,
Right. Right.
your kids had needs, and you're like, I'm going to start a school. But just the image of your kid armoring up is it's so evocative, but it's also so painful.
Yeah.
That we force these kids to go to these places that are not designed for them.
Right.
And then we wonder why they struggle and fail and become miserable. And we go, gosh, is there something we could do different? And then, it takes a certain amount of genius bordering perhaps on insanity to say, I will do something to fix this.
Right. Right. Bordering on insanity is right.
Close, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is it that makes Flex School tick? You started with it sort of instead of the outside in model, you're inside out. We're starting with the kids and building outward. But what does that mean? What's the day-to-day look like there?
I think the most important tenets come out in our values, but I think of those, the most important is we accept you where you are and how you are. And if you're in 5th grade and you should be reading more fluently at that age, we don't care. We're never going to say, oh, well, you should know this by now, because you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And who cares? We just start from where you are. And we do the same thing emotionally. If someone is struggling to make friends, that's okay. We start from there and create situations academically and socially where students can be successful. Because if they can't be successful when they first come, then they're not going to trust us and it's not going to feel any different. And they're not going to have the confidence to take the risks necessary to grow in any way. And I have a story I love. There was a 3rd grader on our cloud campus who refused to do the world map in social studies. And it was not happening.
Yeah, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
No world
no,
map.
we are. It is not happening. Yeah. And so the teacher found out from the science teacher that he liked bats. So he quickly rewrote the assignment and sent it over and said, I want a world map of bat species. And he got a very, very detailed world map back. And that's such a good example of the other thing that I think is so important is that we use strengths and challenges, our strengths and interests, gifts to help them have the confidence to do things that are difficult. If we incorporate those, they're willing to take those risks. And just like this boy did. And then the teacher can have a conversation later about, hey, last time, because of course he's already refused again, right? So, then you can have a conversation. Last time you refused and then you did a brilliant job. What can we do this time? How can we change to make it so that you're willing to do this? And it's hard to take risks. And if you think about special ed, it's a deficit-based model, right? Here's normal, whatever that is. And then you bring people up to that level. And that works for a bunch of people. But for kids who have such a split where they're really, really good at certain things and they're not good at other things and have significant challenges, we have to incorporate the strengths in order for their social emotional well-being to continue and for their anxiety to go down. And so by using strengths, kids are willing to take risks, and you can't grow without that. But kids who are really smart think that they have to be smart at everything. And they don't want to take any of the risks that are required. So we can help them by incorporating what they're interested in.
I love that so much. And I had like the privilege of doing like I forget offhand what you guys call it, but I think it's like an enrichment over lunch guest speaker, guest lecturer, guest teacher come in. And I had like a great privilege to do that for creating civilizations for 2 weeks with kids at Flex School.
Nice.
It was so much fun, and like seeing how there were some that were like really young and then some that were like more like 11th 12th grade, it seemed, having them interact with each other and then build these civilizations where like one girl wanted to make like a unicorn land, and they were like, all right, cool, let's go with it. How can we use this and then also incorporate like, I'm an 11th grader and I don't care about unicorns, but I care about the thing that we're doing.
Right.
So like I just wanted to reflect that like being a part of that even for a moment was amazing.
I'm so glad.
And I think that the things that you're doing in that school, in Flex School, are phenomenal. And seeing the social emotional like connections that kids are making across grade bands and across ages is just applause for all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being a part of that program. I hadn't realized that you were. We have kids in ability-based classes academically because there can be a 10-year-old who needs to be in Algebra 2 and can be lower than that in verbal skills, for example. Funny story, one of my kids said to me, he was in high school, and he said, Mom, I ran into some people in town. And they said, oh yeah, that kid's in 8th grade. And I realized I have no idea what an 8th grader looks like. I don't know if they're this big or this big. And I love that. I don't know how else to appropriately challenge and support kids who have, skills that are that disparate if you don't put them in ability-based classes. And one of my dreams for the world is that in elementary school, every elementary school goes to ability-based classes. I think it would make an enormous difference for so many kids. And I know it's a scheduling nightmare, and it really is, but I think the results are so worth it.
And I think, at least to me, you're doing all the things that any educator knows are good practice.
Absolutely.
But the systems that exist don't allow us to do those things. I joke about this all the time. It's like two of my best friends in the entire world have the same birthday, right? They were both born on August 24th. But because they were born in 2 different towns, one of them was a senior, graduated high school with me, and one was a junior, graduated. Like, that's ridiculous, right? They were the same age, they were the same, largely the same physical size, but one of them had to do essentially an extra year, an extra lap around the track. And she was ready to graduate with us and yet couldn't.
Right.
So it really just, to me, brings back this idea of we have to ask the right questions, but more importantly, we need to be able to follow those questions with actions that really are going to not just pay lip service to what these kids need, right? But actually make effective change.
Right.
And how many teachers out there are hearing that bad example going if I could just do that, if I could just switch the tone or tenor of that project into bats or churches or fashion.
Pokemon.
Right. Pokemon. Right.
Right. Who cares? Assign them each a country,
Right. Gosh. Given the top 5 countries where primate would be happy. You know what? How many kids are actually they're going to jump in our DMs after this episode goes out and tell us, There'll
be a whole fight over where the best places are.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
I want to see Myanmar. It's giving real Democratic Republic of the Congo vibes. We'll see. The listeners will tell us, as they often do. And Jacqui, if we can get nitty gritty here for a second, right?
Yeah.
In New Jersey, there are state-approved private schools, and there are not.
Correct.
And you and I have had many conversations about this over the years.
Yeah.
Because at least unless something has changed, the Flex School is still not a state-approved private school. Am I right about that?
Correct.
For any listener who might be unfamiliar with what we mean by state-approved, the state keeps a list of pre-approved private schools where students with disabilities can automatically receive a direct placement if their public school can't meet their needs. FlexSchool is an accredited private school where many public schools have placed students over the years, but FlexSchool is not currently included on that pre-approved list since those placements take some additional steps.
Correct. And in New Jersey, there's something called the Naples Act, which allows districts to place at a school like FlexSchool, but not every state has that ability.
I remember pitching you guys to a family once, and this family, if they hear this podcast, they'll know I'm talking about them, but that's fine. She was like, but if it's not a state approved private school, is this some like fly by night thing in a basement? I was like, it's actually the exact opposite, because as I understand it, the state's like, well, to approve a private school, they've got to follow what education looks like by our ideas. That a fourth grader is going to do fourth grade and basically everything they do.
Right.
Whereas at Flex School, a fourth grader might be, okay, we're in eighth grade math, third grade social skills, fifth grade art, kindergarten gym, because no neurodivergent kids like gym.
Oh yeah, we do not have so many kids who like gym. Yeah.
As the founder and the person who sits in the big chair, how hard has it been to hold that line over the years, knowing that some families can't or won't come to you because of this rule that you guys don't follow for very good reasons?
You know, it's a really complicated challenge because we have this mission of wanting to help as many kids as we can. And this barrier of state approval means that we can't help as many. We are looking into it again every few years. We look into it to see if we can hold true to who we are and also become state approved. And we're sort of in the middle of that reevaluation again right now. But we're certified or accredited by like 3 different boards. You know, we can give visas, all kinds of, at least today, you know what's going to happen tomorrow.
You're going to get us deported, Jacqui.
I know. So I think it's really difficult for people to imagine when they're steeped in a system. It's difficult to imagine that a system could be different and work better for a particular group of kids. However, there are people who, one, are trying some of the things that we do, and two, are aware that the system that they have is not going to work for a particular student. And so then it's an easier collaboration with the family, the district, and us. As an example, there's a school district where they know they're not doing as well by 2E students as they could. And so they approached us and they developed a pilot program last spring, and they had 3 students in it. And one of the students, all of the teachers wanted in an out-of-district placement. They wanted off campus. And the other 2 had significant, very long-term school refusal. So they created a space and had a teacher there to help if necessary. And they enrolled those students in our cloud campus from their school district. And we're continuing next fall with a larger group of kids because the student whom all the teachers wanted out had such, and they get their, sorry, I'm backtracking, but they get their social emotional support from us. They get executive functioning support from us. Like, you know, it was a whole program, and they're in live classes with other 2E students. And the student who was supposed to go to an out-of-district placement was still doing a few electives on campus. None of the teachers want that student to leave now. And the 2 students with school refusal are now coming to school, or were at the end of the year, going to school every single day and going to every single class, and then going to their other classes on campus. That was a significant risk for that school to do, to actually create something within another system that was designed, you know, to send someone out of district or to send people home for home instruction. And it was extraordinary. I have chills right now. It was extraordinary to watch the change. And if, you know, 3 or 4 classes and some support can allow a student to stay in district, that's better for the district. It's better for the student. They can do all the extracurricular activities there. They stay with their neighborhood friends. I mean, that's what would be good for everyone. And we've spent 10 years floundering in some ways. We've made so many mistakes and tried so many different things. And we're like a lab school, right? These are really complicated canary in the coal mine kids. And so if we can take everything we've learned and share it with other people. Not everybody needs to come to FlexSchool, and not everybody should. But if there can be programs within districts like this, think of what that could do for some kids. It'd be amazing.
I mean, that's an incredible story. And I hope that all the districts that hear this will listen to that, because we can think outside the box to meet the needs of outside the box kids. It's almost like that's what we should be doing, right? But the thing I want to focus on here is you use the word partnership. And, as someone who spends a lot of time in the sort of advocacy space for these kids, I always say, like, I am not anti-public school.
Nor am I.
Like, national parks, public libraries, and public school are the best three things this country does, right?
And trash removal.
And,
we need trash removal. I'm just saying.
Okay. Noonan, like, just
Jake, I've never met you, but I like you.
Yeah, right. You can see why I keep him around, right? I mean,
yeah.
Fine, and trash removal. All right. I just can't.
It's so random. Yeah. Okay.
It's a hill I'll die on. So the four things. So I love public schools, and public schools cannot meet the needs of every kid who walks through their door. It's just not realistic.
They're trying hard. It's not like they're not trying.
We're trying so hard.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
And these are complicated kids.
And if you're a kid, like I always say, like, think about it like a hospital. Like, if you sent your kid to the local regional hospital and they have like an obscure illness that they can only treat at a big hospital in New York City, would you not take your kid to the hospital in New York City? Like, that you go where your kid needs to go. And I know we're all slaves to our budget and there's only so much money to go around, but really, like, schools like FlexSchool cannot and should not be seen as enemies towards the public education system. Like, let us take the kids you guys can't. Let us take the kids that you guys are spending so much time, energy, and resources trying to meet the needs of, to the extent to which that, like, school isn't really school for them anymore, right?
Right.
And I just thinking of it as a partnership rather than a, like a cross swords thing. It saves us all time, energy, and money. And, like, who doesn't want to do better by these kids?
Basically, what we've seen is if a student comes for 1 year, there isn't as successful a transition back into public school. But if they stay for 2 years, that's enough time for significant change to happen, and they mature and, all of that stuff too. And then we see kids going back and having a much more successful transition back. So it doesn't have to be someone gets put in an out-of-district placement like FlexSchool, and then that child is there forever. Maybe they should be, maybe they want to be, I don't know, but maybe they want to go back and they should go back. Again, every student is different and has different needs, and it's easier for us to manage that because we're smaller. It just is. And I really feel for teachers, and I look at the teachers who were trying to help my kids. And one of them, if you're listening, my kids still adore you, the English teacher from middle school. How do you want to prove that you know what we're assessing? You can't ask for more than that. My kids still didn't want to do it because that was where they were. But it wasn't from a lack of trying on the teacher's part. And one of the other things about TUI kids is that the classroom management skills that teachers learn in graduate school, like a lot of the things that they learn don't work for these kids. And that's not the teacher's fault. It's a lack of preparation. There wasn't information about TUI kids happening in grad school for years. It's starting to change. But if you're a teacher and nothing you do works and you've gone through all of your bag of tricks, then it's so easy to think, oh, it's the kid. It's the kid's fault. And the kid gets a label. And then that label follows the child all the way through school. And the next teacher looks at the label and then interprets the behavior of the child through the lens of that label. And then the kid can't get out. And think of the anxiety and depression and all of the things that being caught and feeling that school is unfair.
Oh, gosh.
So many emotions,
you telling a story made me think of one of the first kids I ever referred to you guys. They were at a public school here in New Jersey, and like we did a lot of meetings with the treatment team, trying to figure out a way to keep this kid in district. And I volunteered to give them a training on how to meet the classroom behavioral needs of a twice exceptional learner. And so, we set up a time. I pull up my slide deck. We go through the third slide. They're like, "Can you stop?" I'm like, "Shh." It's like, "Do you watch America's Got Talent?"
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
And like when someone starts to sing and Simon Cowell's like, "Stop the music," and they're like, "Oh, something's about to happen," right?
And your heart just dies for them.
Our heart just dies. I'm like, "What? What?" They're like, "We know all this. We know these things." I'm like, "Cool. It's very clear to me now that you know these things." And remember, the case manager was like, if we know all the things and we're doing these things and it's not working, we've got to send this kid out of district. And it was this moment, right, where instead of spending the rest of the hour doing my slideshow, we just processed how that felt. And it was a really lovely moment because they realized that there wasn't some magical system they didn't know. There wasn't some secret Google where like, here's how to meet the new. It's the environment is the intervention. And there's only so much we can do in some environments, right? That's nobody's fault. But when you said that piece locked into me, I was like, right.
I was just thinking about, the ADHD kids who ask a million questions and have their hand raised at all times. And that's hard for teachers, right? Because they're trying to include all the students in the conversation. But for the kid, they have a burning question that they're going to forget. And if they don't ask that question right that second, they're not going to remember it. And so the urgency that the teacher sees coming from that student is not about taking over the classroom, trying to get more attention. It's about, I have a burning question, and if I don't ask it, I'm never going to remember it, and then I'll never know. And so there are things you can do in the classroom, like give them a piece of paper and say, write down every question you have, and I'll meet you at the end of every class and answer your most burning question. And think of the time you gain in the classroom for not having to answer a million questions. But that's one child and one challenge. And if a teacher has 22, 25 kids in the class, it's really difficult, and we can say we do things differently, and we do, but we also have a luxury. And that doesn't mean a lack of respect for the teachers who are working so hard. All respect. Everybody who goes into education wants to do well for the kids. We can have fewer kids in the class, and that allows us a luxury, and the kids a luxury that other teachers don't have. And so we're not trying to say everybody else is wrong. We're trying to say, hey, we've learned some things here. Some can be incorporated, some can't, and maybe those kids need to go out of district. But maybe we've learned something that everybody can do to make life a little bit easier for the kids.
That paper example reminded me of like when I was my first year teaching. I had a long table, and it was a small class, but I put like whiteboard erase covering over it. And one of my favorite things I did with them, because more than half of them had ADHD, was throughout the entire class, like any questions, thoughts, like big ideas that you had, you could just write down, draw pictures, whatever. So like the entire class would be like drawing and writing all over this like desk table thing, and still listening, still taking notes on like anything, still participating.
Right.
But then at the end, they would, as an entire class, be like, what questions do we want to actually spend the last 10 minutes talking about and figuring out together?
That is genius. That is fantastic. I will steal that if that's okay with you.
No, not at all. You're not allowed. No, you totally can. Absolutely steal it.
That's very clever.
Yeah. So, Jake, I'm going to actually ask you the next question.
Okay.
So, as an educator works with asynchronous, spiky, neurodivergent kids, what about this model appeals to you? Like, put your educator hat on for a second. Like, what about this is like, oh, I feel like this would work?
Ooh. And my educator hat on.
Yeah.
A lot of things about the FlexSchool model like just jumps out to me, especially for 2E kids, neurodivergent, like any aspect of it, where it's more authentic to learning. And this kind of goes back to a couple things I mentioned in other episodes in the podcast, like the theory of education and educational theory in general. Like some of my favorite ones go back to Descartes, Rousseau, and like Michel de Montaigne, where it's all about following the student and the individual, and then trying to level out, like, they're in this place, they're maybe third grade math level, but like 12th grade social studies. So like, how do we level that? How do we understand that in a class where there are other kids that might be in like 10th grade social studies, 8th grade social studies, like 10th grade math, and like the leveling between all of that. And from what I know of flex schools and what I've seen from flex school is that it's a lot of understanding that and being able to like kind of oscillate between, yes, you have this high capability, you also have this low capability. How can we understand both of those things as an individual and as an individual in the broader classroom that you're in? So it reminds me at times of like a new age Montessori style school where it's all about the mastery of the material, mastery of like the understanding, juxtaposed with the individual's passions, personality, interests, like what their curiosities are and where they want to take things. So that's my educator hat on for a second. Is just, I love the model so much more than traditional schools, especially.
Thank you. If both of you look at how difficult it is to manage what you're talking about, the differing levels. And I said earlier, well, if we could make all grade schools, especially, I think we should start there, ability based. I think there are people who are trying to innovate in that way using AI and using online classes to allow people to be at the right level. And I think for some students, that's great. For some of the neurodivergent kids, especially kids on the spectrum, I worry because they spend a lot of time online and then time with adults. And adults adjust to neurodivergent kids. The neurodivergent kids aren't forced to adjust to the adults. And I think that's such an important thing for kids to have to learn, that model or a one-on-one model doesn't get at the messy interaction with peers and group projects. And, I think people are trying to innovate, but I don't think we can forget the social emotional side, particularly for neurodivergent kids, because if they go one-on-one up till college and then they go to college, they're going into an even more sophisticated social environment with even fewer skills. And that is scary to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that even goes like further than they graduate high school and they might not want to go to college. Like, oh, I find a job somewhere. Now I have to interact with all these other people, and it is still group project based at times. Like, that is really difficult.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the really supportive adults who are teachers are not the same people who are their managers.
Yeah.
Managers don't tend to be quite as supportive as the teachers that they encountered before.
Like, I need this thing done, and you're 2 days late. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll just kick them right out of school if it's 2 days late, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You're fired from your job, you're expelled from school. It's like punishment doesn't help kids learn.
No.
Consequences help them learn, right? If I'm 2 hours late for a babysitting gig, they're never going to hire me again. That's a consequence.
Right.
But if I ask a kid to turn in a 4-page paper on Thursday and they turn it on Friday and I penalize them, I'm not penalizing their writing skills or their creativity or their thought process. I'm penalizing their executive functioning, a thing they don't have any control over.
That's one of the things we do really differently. If penalties were going to work, they would have already worked. And many of the students who come in struggle with meeting deadlines. So we give them more support instead of a penalty if they miss the deadline. They get the penalty. I mean, they get the deadline, right? But then if they miss the deadline, the teacher works with them to try to figure out why they missed it. Because there's so many different ways to miss a deadline. And if you don't know why, you can't help them do something differently the next time.
I also love that because like it encourages the student to understand contextually why they're late as well, and it helps them express why which we all know neurodivergent students love to do, is like have that understanding, have that contextualizing for them.
Yeah.
And being able to do that in real time with them, it's so important.
Right.
And it takes away a lot of the pressure from like, oh, you had this deadline that you missed, and that anxiety that builds up internally for that student.
Right.
It's more like, no, this is reality. Like, you're going to have a deadline. Sometimes things are going to happen. You might have a giant earthquake that hits like right where your house is, and now everything in your house is destroyed, and like,
right.
Yeah, you're gonna miss your assignment that day. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah. And if kids are anxious about a deadline, they're not thinking about sort of that metacognitive space where they can figure out why they're missing the deadline. And so you have to take the anxiety away so they can actually think about, oh, I didn't write an outline because I hate outlines. And so many do, including me, by the way.
Oh, same.
Right. I mean, it was like, yeah. I don't think anybody on this podcast knows anything about that at all. Definitely. Yeah. No.
Oh, no.
But it gets to the idea of even the way we give homework and assignments in traditional school is not neurodivergent affirming. Teachers tend to write it at the beginning of class or the end of class when kids are the most distracted and the most unsettled. So if I'm walking to class and people are making noise and everyone's getting into their chairs and putting their bags down, by the way, guys, write a 5-page paper due tomorrow. I'm not hearing that. Or at the end, it's like, all right, guys, remember what I said about the paper tomorrow? If I didn't catch the first part, I'm not going to ask about the second part. And Jacqui, to amplify your point, when the kid doesn't ask about it, we put it on the kid. We say, well, you didn't advocate. You didn't ask for help. Can we assume that all kids can ask for help? Because I don't think we should. Asking for help is a skill. And frankly, I think it comes from a place of deep privilege. As a cishet white guy, I ask for help and people go, right away, sir. Yes, Dr. Kresge, it's great. I love being me. But if I'm a black or brown kid, I'm not going to ask the adults in charge. Those adults have proven to me time and time again that they're not safe. And you mentioned before, Jacqui, like one of the first things you guys need to do at Flex is to get kids to trust you, build that trust. Every time a kid misses something, it is an opportunity to build trust, not build punishment.
Absolutely.
That's a thing you and I have always seen eye to eye on, right? Because, yeah, sometimes our kids are pains in the butt,
We all have our moments.
No, I'm sure nobody at Flex School is ever a behavior challenge for you guys.
Oh, never.
Never, not once.
Not once. But you know what? It's just communication.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're so overwhelmed, or they don't know how to ask for help, or whatever is going on. And if we don't take it personally, that's the key, right? It's not personal. Even if they say, as I've heard directed at me multiple times, screw you, Jacqui, or worse. It's not about me. It's about whatever is going on with them that's making them lash out at the person next to them, which just happens to be me today. And, equity, inclusion, all of these things are so important and don't always happen. And to your point, I'll give you an idea I had. I almost made it work. I was not able to in the end. But for anyone out there listening, please steal this. There was a district that had a very, very high dropout rate in high school. It was a very mixed community. And I talked to a university about having their graduate students test all of the kids before they could drop out. Because my hypothesis was that in that group, a large percentage of them, they're going to be 2E, they're going to be gifted, they're going to be special ed. And because they were Black or brown, that was interpreted as a behavior problem instead of another problem, and not everyone was tested. And so I would love for universities, anyone, to set up programs so that before a kid can drop out, they have to get tested. Think about what that could do. Okay, it's late identification, but still while you have them, and still while you have some time to help. Anyway, I failed. I am putting it out into the universe. I hope that someone else is able to run with that.
And if you do run with it, listeners, let us know. And the three of us will support you, throw our weight behind it however we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we really are all on the same team here.
Right.
When we think about the school to prison pipeline, so many of the kids who fail out are 2E, are neurodivergent learners who are just not being seen for whatever reason. And there's lots of reasons, more than we can talk about on just this podcast. But some statistics suggest that more than half of the people in prisons are neurodivergent. And if one person can say to some of those kids, before you go, let's get a sense of what we missed. And then maybe we catch some of those kids and we redirect them to programs that can teach them.
Yeah.
I remember referring a kid to FlexSchool a couple of years ago. They ended up at a PBL school because this is a kid who just needs to learn with his hands. He builds things. That's what he does. He doesn't really have any interest in the humanities, right? I'm sorry, Jake. I know you take that personally offensive.
I do.
But he's at the right school for him because he's a non-traditional learner who's very 2E. That's the thing. Like, if we had tried to keep this kid in public school, he would be expelled by now. And then that's a kid who's slipped through the cracks, and just there's fewer and fewer good outcomes down those roads.
And the kid feels like a failure.
Yeah.
Right? Because they failed. And what 15-year-old has the wherewithal to say, oh, well, I don't really fit in this system. And so they kicked me out, but that doesn't really have anything to do with me. I'm going to go on and do wonderful things. Not so many.
Yeah. To amplify something you said before, when a kid fails and we don't know why, we always make it about the kid. Because in the absence of additional context, we blame the only context we know, and that's the context in front of us, which is the kid. It's not that we have failed, it's that this kid, who's the only common denominator here, is the kid who failed. So therefore, like the Principal Skinner meme, like, is it me who's out of touch? No, it's the children that are wrong. Like, those are the sort of things where when we take the opportunity to zoom out and think about context, we give everybody a chance to feel better and do better, right? Because it's almost never, ever just that one kid. It's almost always there's a piece of the environment that just isn't fitting. And maybe we can't fix it, but if we know about it, at least we can try.
And I'm going to steal something from you, Dr. Matt, real quick.
Oh, snap.
That I'm surprised you didn't add in there is we should all just be curious, not furious.
Look at you.
Awesome.
You have been paying attention over these hundreds of
I try.
And can I just say something to parents quickly, which is that you didn't do anything wrong if your kid doesn't fit, and you're not too late to make any changes. And that I think as a parent, I certainly would like to go back and do things differently with all the things I've learned since I made, all the mistakes along the way. And I think just recognizing that you're on a journey, just like your kid is on a journey, and that's okay too. And just acknowledging to your child, like, I didn't really understand that about what was happening with you. And I'm sorry I didn't, but I get it now. Let's move on from here. Because the kids are enormously forgiving. If you acknowledge, it's showing them respect. And it's so hard to be a parent of a neurodivergent kid, even as a neurodivergent person myself. It gives you some understanding, and it also gives you a way to get annoyed faster, right? It doesn't just go one way. And being willing to admit, I really wish that I had known that, and I'm sorry, makes a huge difference for the kids.
I want to expand on that for a second as well. Is even for like people my age, like I'm like early 30s, that still makes a huge difference. Like, I was diagnosed late. My mom didn't really understand, but she did her best that she could. And we've had a lot of conversations nowadays that are like, oh, I didn't understand that that's why you were doing certain things, or that's why you were asking certain questions, or here's what I did as a parent that impacted you differently that I didn't even understand. So like, I want to encourage parents as well off of that to continue those conversations, even if somebody's like 40 and diagnosed.
Right. It's hard to be a parent.
It's so hard.
Hard to be a kid too.
Yeah. And we can't do it alone, and we shouldn't do it alone. So whatever places and communities you need to find to make this happen, parents, and we hope this podcast is one of them, please give yourself permission to say, this is very heavy, and maybe I can carry it myself, Just because you can carry yourself doesn't mean it's not heavy. Let this neurodivergent community help you. We will pass you around. We will help you. We will do what we need to do to find the right places that fit with your kid needs. Because if we can help your kid succeed even a little bit, if we can make it like 5% easier, then that is why we all wake up in the morning. Like, honestly, right? This is because it's funny. Like, I was a little bit worried because I love FlexSchool so much and I'm unabashed about that. I was worried this would turn into an hour-long like commercial for Flex, which would not be the worst thing in the world.
No, but this is so important.
Right. And we talked about what these kids need, full stop, and the pedagogy and the psychology that underpins those interventions. And so that's what parents, like, that's what we want you to take away from this, that it's about what your kid needs. And whether you figured that out 10 years ago or you're figuring it out right this minute, welcome to the club. We're happy to have you.
And there's help for parents too. Yes, the kids need help and they can't necessarily ask for it, but a lot of parents, I think, don't feel like they're allowed to ask for help too. I remember a mom came in and the mom was so traumatized by the daily phone calls from school at the previous school.
Oh my gosh, they're the worst.
Yeah. That parent called me every single morning by 10 a.m. for 3 months. And it wasn't that we were calling, it was that she was afraid we were going to call and she couldn't take the anxiety anymore. And by 10 o'clock, she had to call to make sure things were okay. That's a lot of anxiety and trauma for the parents. And asking for help as a parent is sometimes hard to do, especially when your kid needs a lot of help. But it's just as important because helping one person helps everybody.
Given how many neurodivergent kids have neurodivergent parents, there's probably a resultant intergenerational trauma here, because then you start to think about all the times that school called home about you. And then those echoes, that unresolved pain. Yes, I'm definitely wearing my psychologist hat right now, but I see it in a lot of the families I work with is, trauma can freeze us in place. And it makes us sit by the phone and wait and hope that call doesn't come, but we can't do anything else because we're locked in that moment. And in a place that is affirming of who your kid is, they may still call. They may, if your kid sets the lab on fire,
yeah,
right? That's a thing. But it's going to come from a place of understanding, and from understanding breeds compassion, and from compassion breeds consequences, not punishment.
Right. It's restorative practice, not a penalty.
And that's what we're all here to do. And I remember one of my kids, they're at a gifted school on the West Coast, and they were bored. So they decided to hack into the school's Wi-Fi, change all their grades, right? And they were like, right? And the school was like, okay, we need to do something about this. They put the kid in charge of the kid's school cybersecurity.
Awesome.
So this 13-year-old kid, and they're like, okay, you clearly figured out where the holes in our firewall are. Fix them. And I remember his mom called me sobbing, and she's like, he would have been expelled. He would have been expelled. He would have been kicked out of yet another school. In this school, and yeah, they were pissed, but they were like, this is a teachable moment, not like, put him in the gallows, right?
Such a good response. So perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I called the head of school and I was like, I'm going to tell this story forever, because this is what it's all about. Like, honestly, that's what it's all about.
That's strength-based learning, incorporating that into a teachable moment. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground. This has been a phenomenal conversation. Clearly, I would think we've done nothing to, ruin the partnership between the Neurodiversity Collective and FlexSchool. But Jacqui, we're going to do our wrap-up questions now. I'll kick it off. If you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why?
This is such high pressure because all the superheroes, and I've probably seen 5 superhero movies in my entire life.
Wow.
This is not a fair question for me. I'll throw it back at you. Which superhero is the biggest advocate for those who can't speak?
Ooh, there's a lot that would. Wonder Woman certainly has, sort of traditionally been an advocate. I'm going to go a little bit more obscure, though, and I'm going to say Daredevil.
Ooh, I I was thinking Storm.
I'm going to have to go watch these movies now.
Well, yeah, and Daredevil it's a Netflix series, so you don't have to commit to going to a whole movie theater thing. Daredevil, he's blind and he's an attorney by day. He really and he fights for the people of Hell's Kitchen in New York. Like, that's his territory. Like, Daredevil doesn't go to LA to fight Darkseid. He's like, nope, I'm here. I'm just saying Hell's Kitchen. He really he fights for the little guy. And I would say Daredevil.
If you get me started watching all the super heavy hero movies, I'm going to call and tell you how much time you've taken away from me.
You're welcome.
Surprised you didn't say like Charles Xavier or Storm for that one.
Well, I mean, Professor X felt like a little bit too easy, and also he's become an increasingly complicated character.
That's fair.
The head of school piece is a little too on the nose. You know me, I got to zig when other people think I'm going to zag.
Totally understandable.
Well, Jacqui's got a great head of hair, and Professor X is bald. So, all right, Jake, go ask your question.
Okay, my question for you is, what's your favorite word and why?
So many. I was an English major. This is my thing. I love the word eleemosynary.
I'm sorry. What was it? Eleemosynary? She said that so casually, like, oh, I like banana. I like elemental. What that? Elemental P to you too, Jacqui. What is it?
Yeah. It's used to describe those who give. Part of the connotation is give financially, but that give to others. And I learned it in college, and I just thought it was the coolest word. I love the word onomatopoeia. I named a cat Onomatopoeia. And I had Mrs. Malaprop and oxymoron and ellipses, dots. Yeah, I had a few.
Definitely not an English major.
Oh, no, definitely not an English major. Yeah. Matt's like, I'm not sure.
Yep.
I can have any more contact with Jacqui.
Because you know what? Like, my gifts are in the humanities. I'm used to being outsmarted in math and science and shit, right? Like, when kids are talking about multivariate calculus, I'm like, oh, yeah, those are things.
Yeah.
But I'm not used to being outdone on words, and I don't like it. Let's end this podcast now.
Done.
I'll never do it again.
No, we would miss you. Listen, I learned, right? Not all learning is comfortable. Blah, 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 blah. Best practices. Jacqui, you're a delight. What's one thing you would send our listeners home with?
That your kids are hilarious and so much fun and a little crazy. The kid behind me on the stairs at Rutgers who said, "Hey, Jacqui, how would you feel if your house were alive?" That's like, well, that's a really good question. I mean, is it like malignant or, I'm going to have to put some parameters around this, but let's go for it. They're so funny. And the tone might be off. Okay. But if you find the humor and the zaniness, it changes the atmosphere and changes how the kids feel about themselves. But it also, they're going to keep you laughing all the time. Really funny in the craziest ways. It's easy to think of what's not going well and not look at something to find the good.
And their humor and their quirkiness those are things to hang on to. And they're the first things we forget on hour 8 of the meltdown,
right?
Or when you bought the wrong kind of chicken nuggets, or you had another call from the school. And I always tell my kids, like, the things that make you great, you wake up with them in the morning. You don't have to earn them. They're just there. If you're funny, if you're witty, if you ask random questions, those are things that are just good about you. And they sometimes can help you do well in science class. And sometimes they don't, but they're always there. And I think, like, just to remember that, you parents out there, like, your kid's a good person, regardless of whether they fit in school. That's going to help your heart feel a lot better as the journey ahead unfolds. Wise words, Jacqui. Wise words indeed. Okay, so that will bring this episode to an end. Just wonderful stuff. I feel inspired. So for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski. Thank you again for your time and attention, for learning with us and from us. As always, thank you for trusting us with your time. Jake, you want to send us out?
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Jacqui, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was such an honor.
It was great to be able to put a face to the name and for the identity in a sense of FlexSchool. So I truly appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Dr. Matt. All right. Take care. Nice to meet you, Jake.
You too. Bye, guys.
Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.